In the next year, we don't have money, so we need to develop something very quick and very simple. The question is, was about and we can be more how can we be in a more automatic way? The property, background, layout of the road, and properties. And this information is included in our SQL database. And the information related to the user context is the local place that is public information in the level of municipality, human development that is specify the property and we can store it. And the land use the user and the land use of the property use administrative office, but the context the properties in the center are very similar. So the policy is more difficult to define. We in the policy is the farthest from the center. The property is farthest from the center. It is more clear for us in that experience. So we develop this policy in the right upper quadrant. We have in the left quadrant, we have low quality context and low quality context, or more rural context, this kind of properties. This is the reason that we have to underutilize in our diagnosis. So we define the policy. We define that if we finance a building with high quality properties, that is a high quality property in a high quality context, and utilize that is means for us that we're full-time employees that were used for this building. Currently use means that we have more than 20 square meters full-time employees. We will develop a property program for them, maybe open some spaces for other and to understand why this property. It's completely empty. These buildings maybe cyber context is not appropriate for our function as a police servant. We start to develop a property program to open spaces for their agencies or to stakeholders. and it is not possible to sell this because it's a low quality property. We will property with a more valuable property, and if we cannot sell it, we will try to move it to another. Time and effort in trying consideration in order to have more access to in making decisions. Um, about the current policy. So we are share my name we are responsible to make sure that the edge of the legislation, the two spheres of government, which that piece of the legislation. Because when the auditor general audits your property, one of the two together, we yo que será el problema. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Soraya, for your presentation. And I guess we need to move on and start our first panel of the day. So I'm going to call for speakers for our international experiences panel. I'm going to call to the front Villegas from Colombia. Please join us here at the front, Fernando Fernández Monte from the World Bank. Thank you. And please join us to Maria. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, as you know, we have a session. A little less of 20 minutes each. I hope we can catch up with our program step by step. And then brief time for Q&A, or question and answers. And first, Ah, yes, of course, sorry. I will ask also Olga Caganova, the moderator of this panel. Please receive Olga Caganova. So we are now ready, and we can start. Of course, excuse me. I will give the volume first to Ms. Caganova, to say a few words to you, so we can start the panel. Or if you prefer, we have a microphone.
Um, Thank you. So I'm going to as you know, we are in Latin America. And our session reflects this to what extent. Because two presentations would focus on Latin American students. And we decided to change a little bit the sequencing of the presentation. The first presentation will be by Fernanda from the Gold Band, because it will set up the stage for the discussion. Then Mr. Carlos, president of the CISA from Colombia, he will present the real wide experience of the corporation and what they are doing and challenges which they have. And then finally, Mauricio will talk about another the interventions and what they do there. So we ask you for what 15 minutes from now. Then please take note of your questions, and we will have questions and answers and debate after the whole page. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Owen. I think this is the other presentation. Yes, as Ms. Caganova said, this presentation will be the one from Fernando Fernandez Montes. So, please, the technical team, you will display Fernando. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, first, what I have and the audience patients, invitation, and also the workplace network. We are very pleased. I'm here, myself, with my colleagues, Jose Luis Silva and Miguel Antuya, that work with me in these matters in the world. I think we are humbled to be here, speaking in front of so many experts in public asset management, housing for us, and that is why. My presentation what is that we do, our how we see that so basically, the World Bank promoting economic development, some key factors of the institution. The World Bank has Europe, but then I'm going to go over I see Olga looking at me already, so I'm going to go quite just two main goals set up by so those are our two main people. So all our work are geared towards giving them two goals. Another set of key we have 180, and after 70 years of working in development in several areas, so we have accumulated substantial information, knowledge, know-how on the related to economic development. So what we provide also is that kind of technical advisory, not necessarily through our training. We are divided in 14 global practices and 5 cross-cutting solutions areas. Some of these, the global practices, as I already mentioned, education, trust, and then the 5 cross-cutting solutions areas. There are areas that we thought they are transversal to some of the work that we're trying to change. And my department, like my global practice, is governance. In the governance global practice, we work in a broad array of some of the major ones are listed there: justice and rule of law. We work with governments to improve and strengthen the rule of law, the justice institutions. We also work on public service reform, on transparency and anti-corruption initiatives, and public finance. Public finance is a big part of our work, including including the financial management systems in countries, etc. So that's the department that I work in. So that's for the World Bank and how and the area that I belong to in the World Bank. Now getting more into the substance, the role of first, this slide, I wanted to put up this slide by friends and I do so. What do you do? I mean, you work for a bank, but you work on government reforms, but that's not what a bank is supposed to do. And I have to explain this, but it's interesting to explain very briefly because it explains a little bit also the history of the bank. In the bank at the beginning started basically providing finance necessary to foster economic development, basically working on infrastructure, big loans. But then it was realized that this wasn't enough to really promote economic development. So we started working in other areas. Obviously, health and education probably are two salient ones, but one that we started to work on was distribution. I mean, there was a clear understanding that without proper economic development wouldn't really make good and be sustainable. So we started working on that. And that's why I put a couple of ideas there of what is that the public sector needs for development. And obviously, it plays a key role. It provides public services, it creates the environment for the legal framework for businesses to operate, and ensures that the rules are followed, etc. In particular, in public sector, public finance is probably the backbone of public sector work. Spending, I mean, at the end of the day, public expenditures are the allocation of public resources according how we collect the resources, services, and this is, I'm going to get into this now, but traditionally we approach public finance focusing directly at revenues or working on tax reforms, etc., then expenditures, temporary management, and then debt management, then understood that how we finance the capital revenues. But as you know, the private sector approaches their financial statements a little differently, and they have a group that is key, and no one even questions it, balance sheet, assets and liabilities. And this is something that in many countries is divided as assets and liabilities. Assets are not taken into account the So even in tradition, in our traditional approach to public finances hasn't been an area of focus, and we're starting to realize the potential, the huge potential for this. And Laureate economic trend of state bonuses remains largely ambitious. And this is true for many countries, representatives, but even probably more so in across the world. I think some of the areas, the reasons why I put that there are the ones that we identify for our work as lack of detailed information or portfolios, coordination and institutional fragmentation. We were already hearing how to coordinate federal versus state and local government, political issues, institutional issues. That's our main barrier to leverage all the potential that public assets have. Also, difficulty in measuring risk return. When many of these assets are used, at least the services, just the financial return is probably a quite obvious indicator to measure performance is not enough. Sometimes the potential is not realized. So some of these international institutions. This was by the IMF in 2013. We calculated the value of non-financial assets. So when we're talking about assets, we're talking about all public assets and now and infrastructure, land, and others that are not categorized as physical assets. And a lot of countries there, and the red line what shows is the average value of financial assets as a percentage of 50%, which is huge. I mean, this is a higher of money, a huge value is non-financial assets as a percentage of GDP. Some countries are probably half of them are above, and probably this is also the working paper is published online. You need to find it. I'm happy to send the link to whoever is interested. But the interesting thing is that they already put up like a lot of scarcity of information. So probably the public value is even much higher than this, because the data that they work with was really scratch. So and this balance sheet perspective is focusing on assets and liabilities, offers interesting alternatives to overcome challenges in terms of fiscal sustainability. Well, that is very, very good. So basically, now there is a lot of discussion on fiscal consolidation, etc. Most of the policymakers are talking about expenditures, revenues, how to cut taxes, how to increase taxes, how to do taxes, and there is a few for them. A couple of remarks of report by McKinsey, one increase percentage in terms of public assets will be the gain of around 1% of GDP. It's important to mention already commercial assets, financial assets, but still they're not generating returns if they are not revenue generating assets, but sometimes efficiency and reducing costs, and generally it's just to show the huge potential, quantitative potential that there is. So just to other opportunities as well in terms of increasing resilience and flexibility, and managing the assets in a more strategic way and help the government to have a much more strategic policy towards how to deal with liabilities, right? As any company would do with their assets and liabilities. Also, that with more transparency and more information would lead to a much more information on how the financial situation and health of the government, and that would in turn affect the risk premium when discussing with creditors. So a few things that we are identifying. So just to finalize very quickly what is needed and what are we trying to work on from the World Bank and other institutions. Some of the areas that we find very briefly. One is we find that public asset management works. That because that kind of a system framework is going to be very useful to realize all the potential that we are identifying. Then the institutional framework, and we can discuss this much in detail, whether it makes sense to have a public entity But what we think is important is much more than just a pure management issue. No one questions nowadays of the budget, for example, of the expenditure. And that's huge part of the work. I mean, that's the owners are because there's no transparency. How that is kind of oversight. Very glad to participate and looking forward to this discussion. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the.
Please, we'll have to off the picture. I have my wife from there, so please say.
Okay. ¿Recuerda la presentación de Cisa, por favor? Okay. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again. It's a pleasure to share the panel with this forum. I would like to tell you a little bit about CISA and what we do and how we do it. Real case as Olga put it. We are the Public Asset Management of Colombia. We are an entity that belongs to the Secretary of the Finances. And so I'm going to give you a brief overview of the new Colombia. A lot of you know Colombia. We are aware of that, unfortunately. We have done a huge change in our country. Here are some indicators. From 2014, we have been the highest growing country in America. And understanding America from Alaska to Argentina, the highest indicator of growth was Colombia. We, as you see, have moved 350% in exports, moved trade agreements with countries 252% in 14 years. We have a foreign investment of 567%. We have an annual inflation rate now of 3.7%. Our risk assessment issued by the Standard & Poor's has moved consistently during these 14 years from DD to DD to poverty is also a key indicator. In Colombia, we have reduced the poverty in 42%. Poverty is now only 8% of the population. So these are indicators. There are many indicators to how the country is doing, but I thought that this set of indicators really is a of how good we are doing in Colombia. Let's see what is the brief history of Colombia's asset management. This is a chart with complex lot of information, but what I want to emphasize is that CISA started the public sector in 1998. We received about $1 billion at that time, and from 1997, CISA was managing the toxic assets of the financial public sector. Starting in 2008, CISA changed to be the public collector of assets. So what we do now is that we receive assets from all entities of the country, the public sector, and we also receive the receivables of them. We are the company of around 16 million in our one bit that I am is that provide good service, good governance, transparency, impact on the economy of the country, certifications, regular quality, CISO, international service, which is funding, these are responsible. When we do with this program, we reconcile the professional life with the personal life. Our entity, what I call a happy life. My understanding of living is that we have to be happy, and that's what we do with this. Government has the obligation to give input to the system, so we collect the whole inventory of every single place in the country. This is capturing technical information, legal information, and that way we can really have the inventory of what happens on them, how we can manage it, and policy. As Fernando explained, the one question, we worked together in the first quarter of 2015, and we did a comparative study to manage electricity, and we are proposing, and this is right to do so, to create a national we have, as regards to the public asset, what we did with the World One is that we defined that we have three channels in public asset management. So what we did is that we had the fragmentation in the public asset. We defined how that there is an access of regulatory framework. Actually, in Colombia, we have legal support as a law of management. We decided to work on it. And everybody has that free goods, and they are not free goods, they are very worthy. So this is what we want to set up: the purpose, principles, and additional asset management network, and that's what we want to invite everybody that comes from Latin America to this event today. So this is pretty much my presentation, and I would be glad to take any questions from the panelists. Thank you.
So I will use my people my impression is, and I'm quite sure that I'm correct, that more than of the rest of Asian government in the country. So the agencies which manage main not so well I know other examples of the special preparation managed very excited for your organization to achieve their objectives through effective efficient management of their tasks. Let's consider the ISO standard of the 55 it's something that we have from the asset, but also achieve the service goals of your organization. That's not government agencies, but also to achieve goals. It was measured somewhere by the book that you mentioned that 75 billion assets were estimated in the world. So we're smart. Latin America has been investing a lot of money in infrastructure in the past few years. So we have a growing stock of assets, but we need more. It's something that's ongoing. There's huge visible value that's like a key concern for good. So this will not be able to correct them. So there's huge visible value that you are. Not only because many of the assets are underground, but also, many know what assets you have. But there is another concern for economy, but assets are account for a huge contribution
That means that these grow. They grow. They require intervention into read after very interesting discussions here about what is maintenance, what is rehabilitation, but anyway, so this red line of the use of the assets and the other one, the green one, shows the preventive measures. These assets are functionally complete, and they work as long as you do not invest properly, the value will come down, and the functionality, the asset will be inadequate, or even that's something that's very relevant for our guys. So what do we do about it? So we like to say that we are an oldest bank. So that means that we are our money. That's for development purposes. In all the Latin American regions, of course, many of our partners that provide money for us are from out of the region, but we work. So we make some about it, different areas. We publicize about how we maintain, also about public-private partnerships, and we like to make a lot of evaluations on how do we work, how our policies being implemented, particularly the ones related to infrastructure maintenance. So, as I said before, as you figured, we also finance investment projects in several sectors that are relevant to development. Of course, financing, we finance infrastructure, but many other, like in this case, justice projects, require also some investments in infrastructure, as you know. So, we also care about it, because it's a lot of money that government is putting into that. They acquire debt, public debt, and so if this infrastructure is not very well taken care of, we will end up being useless or dangerous. So, we'll, I was thinking about a two approach for this issue, for the three. First one was, I'd like to think that asset management requires an enabling environment. It's not only about the policy specifically developed for managing the assets in the organization, but it also requires some additional things from a systemic perspective. So first, I'm talking now about the whole cycle of the asset management, right? Not only defining policy, priorities, and then procuring, and then the whole cycle. We're going to see. But first, we do a lot of work government, helping them understand demand. Because demand for services is key. And how do we have to look? So we do a lot of, we support governments with service access, satisfaction services, which are key. You know that satisfaction with government services is always the quality of infrastructure. We're doing a very good project with Ecuador right now that's measuring these satisfaction surveys, and it has a huge component of infrastructure, and it is strongly related to the satisfaction provided by government, the quality of the infrastructure. So there's another part. That's now happy that there are not many accountants here in the room, so we will not directly it's not going to say. It's you heard of that, right? Also, we have an international public sector accounting science. These standards are very relevant for from a broader perspective because they show government best practices, their assets, how they entry value of the assets, and also define the exit value of the assets. You know, how do you register your assets? And they bring some responsibility and some good practices into the management, the financial management. We found that by implementing these standards in many countries, that's the way that they have come to realize that they have to do a lot of, they have to do the way they don't know and there. See, because their budgeting, you will be able to include in the budget the resources necessary for adequate maintenance and the use the assessment systems, of course, to know, okay, how much is it going to cost to take care of it. We also work supporting the regulatory environments of government in these areas, including strategies, very key, because some parts of the world, like I'm going to deliberately speaking a little bit, just a few words about Canada, was very that in the structure of Ontario, for example, they base their management of assets in public-private partnerships. So that's a very specific to do, like for so if you want to do that, you need some capacity, some good, some things that work well for the system to manage. And then control systems. Control systems are also key. If you have policies regarding how assets should be managed, control systems are the ones that point the finger and say you're not following the policy. Many countries have the problem. You have policies in place, but nobody follows them. And there's nobody to hold you accountable for that. So control systems have also a key aspect here. Well, we also have some sector-specific solutions. As I said, the cycle for these for that policies, the business understanding, defines the business requirements, the allocate budget, the program, the business process, the supervision of the construction, the operation and maintenance, and the so, this is a great example of when we invest, for example, sectors like energy, a lot of here, also some of the planet, which is key, also education. You see the picture, it's a picture of the school. It's a country. If you see it, imagine there's a lot of, there's light, all the kids are in one small space. There's a lot of growth, and that's being used in school. So obviously, very well planned. The model, and we also include in our contract maintenance, the require governments to create a maintenance. I'll talk a lot about maintenance, but that's not the key of these issues, right? So remember, Brazil, they own them. So it has two components. First, operating processes and databases for characterizing property, which is federal. Then generating knowledge for asset management. That's one of helping them provide, develop like super interesting models like the one that you mentioned, Soraya. And of course, additional processes for managing the assets of the federal government. The activities involved here, the identification of service needs, I mentioned before, some improvements in photography, asset registry. Also, their key cryptography is like a challenge in the country. Because of the regulatory capacity and methodologies, incorporating risk management, decision making, and data analytics. That's key for making issues, not only to determine the person of the structure, but also to understand better in a permanent basis what are the keys of the structure. Of course, a lot of human resources, training, resourcing, sourcing, also processes, quality assurance, and a lot of investments in information technology, new accounting standards, and budget. Budget is something that's really interesting in this business, right? Because this agency is basically funded by transfers from the federal government. However, is this really an entity like a self-sustaining activity? Right? Think about it, because many agencies they just suffer because they have to wait for government and federal transfers and all that. But maybe this could be self-sustaining. Imagine assets, if you properly do that, as we saw in the case of Mexico, you can loan, you can have the rent, you can have some resources like settings. I don't know. Just something to think about. And with these activities developed in an important system, then we expect to maximize the public value of assets. That's something I know already done for science. Challenges. Now, is it easy? No, of course, you know. First, there's a lot of high interinstitutional coordination requirements. This is key to making our other projects fail. Because there were flowers, completely political incentives, politicians, as our colleagues from Ecuador mentioned before, they want to, inaugurate, maintain, doesn't provide that many votes. Digitalization of investment, different levels of property, about restrictions, we didn't have money, there were institutions to use their maintenance budget and things. Many number of assets, nobody knows where they are, how they use, how they use, and there's a lot of institutional infrastructure. And there's a difficulty to set that up to the level of maintenance, and zero risk management culture. I'm not sure. I don't know if this seems true, I love it. It's not reflecting the quality of the infrastructure of anybody, but it's just to highlight the difficulties that we face every day, that we sympathize with that, and we are there to support everything. So, thank you very much.
Please introduce yourself, formulate the question, and those to whom you address your question.
Sentado, traduzca, por favor. Eu não represento o governo federal, eu represento o Estado do Rio de Janeiro. Esse programa, o governo federal, o patrimônio federal, nós, no Estado do Rio de Janeiro, já fizemos há 3 anos atrás com recursos do Banco Mundial. Levantamos, são cerca de 3 mil imóveis públicos no Estado. Levantamos, cadastramos, avaliamos, fizemos plantas e geoprocessamento. Estamos finalizando esse trabalho no final do ano. O governo federal é outra coisa.
Desculpa, Cristina, tenho que lembrar tudo.
Vamos lá.
Vamos lá. First of all, Tina says she is representing not the federal government of Brazil, but the state government of Rio de Janeiro. And she said also that in the past years, they in the state of Rio de Janeiro, they had a program, a similar program with the World Bank about that specific issue. E depois, o que significa isso?
Já levantamos, há 3 anos atrás, tivemos a Banco Mundial, com recursos do Banco Mundial, levantamos, cadastramos, fizemos plantas e geoprocessamento em cerca de 3 mil imóveis do Estado do Rio de Janeiro. Estamos finalizando.
The program, Tina says, was carried 3 years ago with the World Bank, and as part of the program, they did cadastral, took the cadastral information of about 3,000 properties, state properties, and I understood, Cristina, that the program available properties, no? State property that is available. A intenção, Cristina, era para vender esses imóveis?
Não, conhecer, avaliar quem usa, onde estão, porque não sabíamos disso depois. Quem usa, onde eles estão localizados, quanto valem. E localizar no mapa, que é o geoprocessamento, onde estão os imóveis.
The main purpose, or the main goal was to know information about those state properties. Who are using those properties, measurement programs.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Other questions, it would be nice to start from questions to our panel.
Maurice, my name is Professor Kodebe. I'm from the Ministry of Work. My question is the state management. Could you please go in why recommendation of Article 40? What is the appropriate discount ratio that you can apply in the internal rate of return for social infrastructure versus economic infrastructure? That is a question that I want to ask because the issue at hand is to say we want to get to a position where we've got a relatively comparable NPV outcome, either from zero or positive within economic infrastructure. Because governments are not in the business of making profits, they are there to deliver public goods to respond to public policy priorities. And linked to this is the question that says, when you are at a decision point to either recapitalize an asset, linked to the presentation with our legitimate is to meet the quantitative data over and above quantitative data. Linked to that also whether or not you press the go button when you are going to start a new creative project, or you start close to commission exercise.
So certainly a key topic, and I'm sure that I cannot give a more definite answer, but I really appreciate the question because I think it's framing the discussion
other sectors as well. Anyway, as you mentioned, yeah, there is a lot of difficulties to show future a national level. We are run as a private companies. That's why we are shocked. We do not receive any penny from the union, from the federal government. We are self-sufficient. We need to provide excellence in our services, and that's what we have done in all of the processes. And the way that I have done that is that I show sector employees, governors, and ministers, everybody sector that open the doors to system and value, to move, provide good service, transparent, more efficient. They people open the door, turn out as a good deal for them. So, the next
Okay, you also have a question of why a corporation is going to disposal to perhaps the a model of good asset management in comparison with other organisations that have sort of considered occupations as their role. I'm interested in the reflection on that. So, my view, and for most of the organisations here, the goals are not simple, they're not easy to define. And defining the value of what these organisations do in terms of providing safety in this work, managing the service and deliver, is actually really
working with teachers certainly she can flexible that our government is it's very easy to sell. That poses challenges as well, but how we can use them that how because for example we have taxes and costs that how we can use but certainly our opinion and finance have other ideas, but I think in terms of just the disposal of the management side as well, I think having a corporation the assets and get a last year we were regarding the asset management. We can either unproductive or they are not needed for government purposes. And in this area, you have the churches. Here in Mexico, for example, you have the bridges, you have the hospitals, you have the roads, and in this area, you have the disposable assets. That area is where system works, mainly. We have other entities, and actually, I'm feeling that we have a full job doing that assets. And in this disposable assets, it is key, as Fernando mentioned, to be very flexible and to have private sector policies
and legislation. We do not run CISA by public legislation. The public legislation is very tight because of budget restrictions. And given the budget restrictions, they have a lot of processes to go through. So that's a huge difference. We are government owned, but private run. That is how we handle it.
Well, I think that CISA has done a great job, like it wasn't working, it's interesting. Now, I think that it's quite different, as you mentioned, from the role that other institutions do, because if you have to think about the focus on disposal of infrastructure, right? It's not a chance to think about what needs that's also very complicated. And you use it. For example, if you're using it, then I just change it to, I don't know, something different. These are all the questions like firewall, perhaps coordination, and what another, like, for example, and I agree with that, but I think with that, I mean, we've seen many of them for the implementation come from our by the different with a basis that only supports, right? So the institutional, I mean, the different powers, different ministries that have to with the assets different when you are on host, right? When you use that, then you need to have like more, like a broader power on the assets managed by different institutions. Right? If you want to change the use from a school to for another industry, that's a challenge. You got four things. I don't know.
They usually have multiple criteria for evaluation and social support. Project planning.
I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that this is people, I'm saying it's easier than having the other approach, because it has its own challenges, right?
Al Banco Mundial quisiera preguntarle, Fernando, si usted tiene una perspectiva de trabajar en la región, en este tema de los bienes, de los activos. Entiendo que visitaron también a Ecuador el año pasado, con CISA inclusive. Nosotros estamos apoyados fuertemente por el BID, si se puede coordinar con el BID y el Banco Mundial, porque es parte de lo que nosotros estamos trabajando, y eso es parte de las perspectivas que tenemos nosotros. Entonces, la pregunta es que han pensado también en ir trabajando dentro de la región.
Ecuador asked me if the World Bank is willing or if it's looking to work on these issues in Ecuador. And actually, it's great that you posed this question. I think Michael was also posing that question when I was there. I was part of the the work that we were doing with CISA. Certainly, I think we were doing a very good job. I mean, it's probably well beyond my check to make that decision and to hold like a definitive answer. But what I can say is that it is an area that we found, as I was presenting, an area that I think hasn't been, even within my institution, there are two main obstacles that I found in my institution to work more on public investment. One is the fragmentation. We also have institutional fragmentation. Instead, other departments who work on management, for example, our colleagues working on infrastructure, and asset management related to the infrastructure projects, urban colleagues working on urban development, and us as the government department on the public financial license. I think in our case, we have been a little bit the huge potential of these areas, so I really hope, because I'm really interested in starting this work, that we will work not only in Ecuador but in other countries. But again, I apologize. But what I can assure you is that we're more than happy to continue the conversation and to look for opportunities to work together, because I would think that this is an idea that will give some opportunities.
If there are no more burning questions, I suggest that we send our panel and for their presentation, and leave the rest of the questions to discuss during the coffee break. Is this okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to Carlos, Fernando, Mauricio, and especially thank you to our moderators. Well, moving on, we are going to skip the brief coffee break that is programmed now because we are still behind. So if you allow me, I'm going to call for our next session called Key Document Survey and Key Indicators. I'm going to call who will be joined by Tom BNR from our. Please join us in this program. Para el equipo técnico, el señor Hardy, el vice Hardy, va a comenzar con
Good morning, although it's still into the evening, we are at the front. So forgive me if I thinking about survey, which is the CWN network, one of the binds network together, you all, and that most people here have a lot of use. So, to start with that, have you found that structured? I'm not going to dwell on these, because you don't have a lot of time. So we will go and see the report, which is November 2001. So this slide will give you a picture of the source of information that we propose. So this is a breakdown of each organisation's portfolio and strategy. Interestingly, though, I think gives a view of the scope of state policy and regulation. This is beyond the actual own portfolio. This is where regulations and policy stations have an impact right across government and national portfolio. The comparison of those slides. Strategy and policy form a very important part of the organisation's role. But actually, it's not going to talk about it so much. We often focus on the portfolio. We asked how the organisation will be described. So this table shows again, so you can really creation of the branch cost or from assets. Useful to understand the funding model. We'll come on to the questions left through. Because the source of funding is key to defining indicator of the way the organisation as well. And to try and make comparisons with funding is probably not very appropriate. So by looking at this data or take on purpose, all important. There are some organisations here that don't actually own money. They're still part of the network that have responsibility to set policies and strategies. There are specific questions. The survey is tailored so that it's an online survey, so different organisations don't have to have a portfolio of property. There are questions relating to the portfolio are ignored. We developed this online approach to try and simplify the interaction between the person filling in the questionnaire and the questionnaire. Organisation will also see an overview of how time spent on survey responses, and you need to look at this in detail. When you look at the online version, you can interrogate to find out what the changes are, and again, each time to function. Now this one you won't be able to read back, and I'll suggest you try. So what key indicators for every organisation are. So the survey interrogates KPIs, but it also then goes into much more detail on priorities, top three priorities for each organisation. And the survey is actually very straight out. So we begin to get a picture of what's important in the coming years. Interestingly, this table shows that most indicators are square meters or square feet per SKU fraction. This is often of interest, knowing how many people in the organisation there are and how much space is actually directly managed to know. But these numbers are only the start of the conversation because the huge differences you will see in the person. Specifically, the type of text that's on the way the portfolio. To me, when I first came into the working in sort of network in W4 many years ago, I have to say that actually only often those very important. And so the organisations we talk to around that often have other organisations within their countries that perhaps deal with the other parts. Manages their services, but the departments themselves, they manage their own individual activities. I'm interested to see what's over that right and how it's used. An interesting question about whether tenants pay rent for the space they occupy. That's a thorny question, and we're subject to discussion, and I think this is perhaps something that will tomorrow in the assembly about funding models, and certainly something to invest in rent property in the UK is should tenants be paid staff rent, and if so on what basis? And the related question to that is, do the tenants have to come to the organisation or not, and what impact does that have on the way the organisation services those tenants? Very much related to the interested number. And this one, in particular, average utilisation this one is time and time use benchmark, and again, the numbers have to be taken with a very great pinch of salt and not posted without consideration, because in this particular page, the way the needs to be measured for country to country. And so the number here is the quoted number for any particular country, that's an organisation but actually they're not directly comparable at all. And we're limited understanding this, particularly in this office space. These comparisons are actually very specific situations where they need to try and use space more effectively, but you don't actually know whether you can get or worse or on par with other kind of sector organisations unless you can measure space in a very consistent way, and that's what probably talks about. This question talks about the influence of national strategies, and there are three organisations here who national strategy belongs to government property. That's South Africa, Japan, and now I'm doing Estonia, and those organisations, their sphere of influence in the country goes way beyond the public sector. We asked about the trends, and this is a simple yes no, but we find it in the report about why these organisations think that centralisation is either increasing or not increasing. And similarly, the partnerships with the private sector. The interesting thing is not really whether it's yes or no, I think. The interesting thing is why. And the contract question is not should either yes or no. Sometimes the increase is no, because actually the partnership, say, with the private sector is actually really very essential or no specialisation that is already specialised in. So that's a very quick overview of what you can find in the survey. There's actually quite a lot more descriptive text in there, I can't put in slides, but mind is information and build on it. It's a resource that doesn't need to be repeated. It's there for members to use. But I would urge that if you wish to use it, put this information that's been provided by members, by individuals, based on their own understanding and knowledge. It's not the public expression of any organisation producing. So if you don't try and use this information that we use within the network internally in the organisation, but if you want to quote any of this information, then it's certainly a recommendation to do that. Please ask whoever provides that to approve it, can be confirmed with the use of a public content. Survey, now that link probably won't work now, but in the main presentation, that link will take through to the survey will be
role is to engage the industry, and hence the invitation to come here, which is exactly what we want to do as an organisation, is to collaborate with key clients of the industry like you. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of our text. Role in terms of management and maintenance. Okay. However, our members, if you boil down our members, they're involved in the valuation, the management, the costing of any real estate development. We've got a full research agenda in facilities management, and now we're about to launch public sector asset management research. We're hoping to hold roundtables in maybe 12 or 13 cities around the world and pull together some best practices. And we're really wanting to collaborate with the work-based network on this. So more to come on that. So we were speaking a little bit earlier about the accounting standards for public sector, and so for us we will interchange that with IFRS, the International Financial Reporting Standards. The standards work that we do, the reporting standards, the accountancy standards, then we go down to international valuation standards.
RICS was a founding sponsor of the International Valuation Standards Council, and we're working very closely with the Appraisal Foundation in the US about bringing some elements of convergence between international valuation standards and the US standards. However, we're also working in a number of countries to try and converge as much as possible, because we're all about consistency, transparency in the industry. Now I'm going to talk about IPMS, which is property measurement standards. I will say as a side note, we are about to embark, in fact we have just started an initiative on international cost measurement standards. And this is all about standardizing our understanding of elements cost in construction. So that would be another area that we want to present property measurement standards. This, I have some handouts that I'll pass out after the session. Gentlemen themselves in research, we use the difficulties of standardizing the way we're measuring buildings, and they said, depending where you are in the world and what the local standard is, the internal area could be 24% different. So we have lots of anecdotal of car parks 3 miles away being counted. The potential height of a building being included. So and then expecting our members to abide by that. However, we really want to focus on joining the industry together globally to achieve a common good. We were just one of the associations that worked in May 2013. At that journey, we had 20 associations come that included all the ones that you can probably think of, from Kobe in Brazil to the Appraisal Institute in the US, to BOMA, Hornet, IFMA, some big Chinese associations. Subsequently, it's grown to just under 70 associations representing millions of professionals around the world. So, as I said earlier, depending on where, on which association your professional will be abiding by a set of agreed standards on how you measure the real estate. This whole initiative is about providing this bridge over the top. So, at no stage be suggesting that a piece of guidance goes away, but RICS to stop providing guidance or BOMA to stop. But what we're saying is every coalition member has agreed to over the next couple of years align its own standards. So we're all changing our. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to do that in the short term. Here's a list of some of the associations. You can hopefully pick out ones that you know about. I would say that probably the biggest omission here that we're wanting to change in the next 6 months is Mexico. So hence the excitement of the invitation here. We are speaking to UPADE, the Latin American Association of Valuation Associations, to see if there's anything we can do to join them into this. But we absolutely want to engage the Mexican market. Standard setting committee was formed after identifying the initial issues regarding the differences in measurement standards. We put together a committee with experience from 47 countries. I think the red dot might be where they're based, and the green dot is where they practice. So we had a whole load of international experience, including South Africa and Australia and Japan and elsewhere. The next consult a number of the corporate occupiers at the time, and this is that was stage one, stage two, the discussion we're having. A number of corporate occupiers and service providers help provide some expertise as we were doing this. Feeding into the consultation, it enabled us to have a product at the end that was more relevant. And remember, actually, I should say, international property measurement standards in our offices right now. We're about to start. In fact, the property measurement standards we will be doing the land. So we're going to find bring their level of expertise. We had our first government adopt IPMS September last year. I mean, this was really, we were quite surprised because we hadn't, this is part of going on the roadshow to start telling everyone about it. And Dubai was very keen straight away to look at the way it's measuring its estate and used it in its successful bid, the whole Coast Expo. It was one of the pieces in its proposal. I've been reliably informed by my colleagues. We're in active discussions right now with governments in New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UK on how to implement IPMS. As I said earlier, that we're talking about a standard, and we're talking about a 100,000 foot standard here. Every association will still continue, whether it's the LGE in Europe or BOMA, every association will continue to produce the same guidance, and RICS does that too. However, they're expected to come in alignment. And the key part of that is the online tool. Now, RICS, as you'll recall me saying, established in public interest, but we're just keen to get this out there. So we're in discussions with a number of associations and markets right now about the demands for IPMS. We're very happy if there's been demand to produce this online converter, which makes it, we've launched the 1/3 of bonus standards. They make it incredibly easy. You just input the data according to bonus standards, and it converts it to IPMS. What our pitch, if you like, is let's have some discussions about the applicability of these standards in your market, in your government estates. Let's talk about how likely it is that you want to be part of this global initiative, and we can look at developing some sort of converter that might help you implement it. We might talk about dual reporting, but this makes it much easier. It means that when you come to these meetings, when you're putting your data in the survey, if everyone's doing it according to IPMS, using a simple converter tool, it means that this is going to be much more useful for everyone, I think. So I'm going to quickly touch on a few of the, a slightly deep dive. I won't spend long on this, but really the first thing that everyone would need to look at adopting IPMS, the expectation would be that everyone would have had or been drawing models of your real estate asset base. We can work in some cases, we can recommend various service providers that might work with involved in, but really, that's the foundation. The IPMS also looks at floor-by-floor components, and then it adds it up into the building as a whole. So we've got it. Perhaps if you just think about IPMS as IPMS for offices is three distinct elements. Number one is IPMS 1. If you think of gross external area, that's kind of what it is with a few small tweaks. I think roof terraces and balconies are possibly not included in IPMS. So everyone's going to use that for in terms of the architecture drawings. The second stage is the IPMS 2, and this is probably the one that most of you will be interested in. This is looking at net internal area, and it's defined against the internal dominant face of the wall. So there are definitions on that, so it's relatively easy to see what we're referring to. Again, this could be used for multiple occupiers within a building, and then you're adding up component floors to a whole. And then IPMS 3 is the third element, and that's all about exclusive basis. And so there are different considerations, obviously, when you've got one tenant in terms of the elevators, and all the others in that office. So in terms of the next stage, what we'd love to do, we've got Dubai on board, but we'd love to be speaking to a number of you about looking at some pilots, about looking at the workability and applicability of this. We're actually alongside this, and we spoke a little bit earlier about the ISO standards as well, which are a separate initiative but we're looking to make to help our research and IPMS be holistic and part of the overall consideration of standards in the public sector asset management field. So we're commissioning some global research that will comprise, as I mentioned earlier, that will comprise a number of roundtables with government occupiers, government asset managers, corporate advisors as well, to sort of get the flavour from each market, bring it to a whole, and try and make a link through that research with ISO as well. I should say other occupiers who have adopted into the International Monetary Fund, which was one of the first adopters of IPMS So I'm really happy to answer any questions, hopefully not too technical, as I'm not an expert.
I'm very excited and fully supportive. However, I would want to deal with the point I would just want to raise and the subject matter saying point of entry. And I think it would be very important with respect to South Africa, and I don't want to speak on behalf of other countries, but we saw the TWN survey, what it related. And the connection I want to make is the three countries that in terms of scale of control and scale. I think we were one of those two. Because very important something very different which other countries all the professional functions council and called the FAC, South African Council for Training Profession that is responsible for a particular space. So the whole on its own will not be in a position to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. And also linked to that, the way our regulatory framework is organized, because everything is urged. This will need to be, if we agree to it, we will need to link back to tertiary institutions with respect to public function objectives and appropriate standards for the curriculums that require accreditation for those programs so that they are compliant. The issue of registration standards and provisions of practice for public safety. The issue of the recognition of VAs, which voluntary bodies we actually recognize. Because APOA is only just one of many, and it cannot assume a position of speaking on behalf of the country. And within the international sphere, because for us, what is important and why we're also is that the item of mutual recognition of professions and qualifications. So we would also want to tap into a database. Who are the countries and professions that have adopted this model, so that we can already know when we link up to our qualifications authority, so that we can deal with all those bureaucratic items up front, and so that we're true to what Ito was saying about Africa. The business person, by way of an example, which is an international company based in London that operates in South Africa, that we need to apply from our home office department for to come and work. It was already visual recognition and 5 weeks we're trying to open more out, which is very good for productivity and different conditions and promoting trade. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I respond to that just briefly? Because I think I like what you're saying about this. This isn't just about standards. This is about the credential. It's the professional being trained to operate within those standards. It's about market awareness. It's about linking it with technology as well. And I hope no one's feeling as though the government asset manager that's responsible for more millions of square feet than the corporate occupiers that we've talked about so far has been ignored in this process. We didn't fund international research with corporate occupiers. That's what we're doing with government. That research will focus on 3 areas in terms of landing and discussing how the standard might work in your market. And it's focusing on people, buildings, and technology within that. So I'm hoping through the engagement with members here today, it will hit all those sort of areas that you're speaking about, and not just go to the private sector associations.
Any other questions about the survey or to Tom? Yeah, well, I'm certainly around to talk about any aspects of information that you might be able to glean from the survey or any of other PWN networking activities. I'm probably you're around.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much once more for speakers. By the way, the TWN 2015 survey it will be available at the TWN website very soon. To get the survey, you will need to the website, and then we very, very soon the same survey to Okay, so we need to move on with our program. We're going to have our first special interest working group. The leader will be William Nick from Canada, and the theme will be the topic, contracting with the private sector. So, if you allow me, I'm calling William Nick. Bill, please. Thank you. Thank you.
So I see my time ticking away, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm actually the speaker standing between you and your lunch. So I'll try to engage in. What I will do, I'll pose questions throughout the entire conference. We may be contemplating time to give you an opportunity to provide some feedback. But I think what we'll do, and view of the amount of time that we have, if you want to have a discussion offline with respect to some of those questions, please call in addition to that, start data capture and building of the information intelligence around contracting with the private sector. So I think that's probably in the interest of time the approach that we take. I was going to share with you a little bit of information with respect to how I got here, because I was not originally the person that was come and talk to you about this topic. I think I'll say it for some time, but suffice to say it has something to do with hair, or in my particular case, the lack thereof. So I'll share that with you and run you the Just a little bit about myself and why I'm talking about this particular subject. I've been with the Public Works and Government Services Canada in its previous iterations within the real property field for 28 years. So I'm both a newbie to PWN, and an old guy because I've been around PWN for an extended period of time. And you can well imagine that through that 28 years, I've seen a significant change in the way in which PWN is done. Specifically in the areas of in-house delivery, outsourcing services, and then ultimately where we're at now, outsourcing some of those real property service management identities. My responsibilities at present relate to the design, development, procurement, and implementation of large-scale real property service management mechanisms and contracts. So things that these mechanisms collect a significant number of real property services together. We solicit the private sector to see what capability they have to respond. We select a contractor, and they then begin the delivery and provide the service delivery, the services including the contract. So that's my responsibility, and I guess that's one of the principal reasons that I'm talking to you today about this particular subject. So I'll give you an overview of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to drop off a couple of things here because I don't think we really have time, but again, I'd be quite happy to speak to you about them. We want to talk about and set the stage for a special interest working group on contracting with the private sector. So we'll tell you a little bit about what our roadmap is, how we see this being structured, how long we think it's going to take to get to the point where we have some meaningful data that we can share, and then a little bit about what we expect of you. So that's the first slide. I was going to give you some feedback with respect to PWC. I think a number of you have probably been privy to that in the past. I'll try and go through that relatively quickly. And if anyone wants more details, feel free to talk to me. I'm going to provide you with a definition in rapid form of in-house, outsourcing, and outsourcing, just so that we're all on the same page with respect to what we're talking about, and you can relate it back to what's happening within your particular jurisdiction, your country. We'll talk about in very specific terms of real property service management model and mechanism, our philosophy and the model that we employ to do our outsourcing, some of the drivers, and also the evolution in that particular model. We'll talk about Real Property One, which is the real property mechanism that we just implemented this fiscal year. It's the new one, and it's our third generation of RPSM contracts. And we'll talk about a little bit of oversight and contract management. There was a couple of slides in the deck on information there. I'm not going to talk about that. But for those of you who are interested, we can talk offline. A little bit about the future, where we're going with respect to the delivery of real property services. And then next steps as far as working group is concerned. So, the special interest working group. What are we doing with this particular working group? First, what is the roadmap? Where are we proposing to go? What we're hoping to accomplish, very much in line with what Bridget presented to you, is to form a working group with participants or representatives from all of the various members of the CWN. And we're hoping to start to gather business intelligence with respect to leveraging or using the private sector. Start to develop some information or capture some information with respect to various models that are employed. And we're depending on you to be able to provide some of that information to us. Because obviously, as a large community, there are various approaches that are followed with respect to securing services from the private sector. We want to ensure that for the benefit of all members, that we capture as much information and we can provide that back to people who are interested, but also so that we, like Bridget had mentioned, are able to link people who are interested in exploring a particular type of model, would be advertising and sourcing or others, to the organizations, the countries, the members who are following a similar path. So that you're speaking to the right What are we looking for from you? Well, obviously, we're looking for participation, engagement, and as I mentioned at the start, we're also looking for the questionnaire that we send out. So we start that all-important intelligence gathering, collection of data so that we can start to develop the information and, as early as possible, start to share it with interested parties. How long do we think this might take? It's a good question. I suppose it depends on how detailed we want to get. But as a starting point, I would suggest that this is the launch of this particular working group as far as assembling information. Then we look to work with those parties that are interested, and I hope there are a number, over the course of the coming months, between now and the next CWL meeting in Norway. And we're hoping that we're able to facilitate that engagement, that discussion, by employing technology. Kevin mentioned in his opening remarks last night that one of his first experiences, the technology did not work as well as they hoped. We're hoping that we can create some sort of a portal, some sort of a way to share information, to capture information, and to get information back out to members so that we make it as easy, as quick, and as painless as possible with respect to that information sharing, and then all the information that is shared. So, very quickly, Public Works and Government Services Canada. PWGSC is a common service agency that provides what we call common services, which are acquisitions, translation, pay and pension management, and also real property accommodation and real property optional services to a host of other government Canada organizations or departments. There are, I think, a total of 109 departments and agencies within the business. And as a common service organization, we provide our services, all of those services, to them. Our objective really is to be the best of what we do and to support the government Canada departments within the business in the delivery of programs to Canadians in a timely, cost-effective, and efficient manner. But it's all about making sure that other government departments are able to deliver their programs where and when required in an effective and efficient manner. So that's, in a nutshell, what PWGSC is. Real property, as a component of PWGSC, is one of the common service organizations that exists within the government of Canada. It is a designated steward or custodian of PWGSC's real property assets. So we have approximately 1,654 locations composed of both Crown-owned, owned by PWGSC, and leased facilities that we provide to the broader government of Canada community to accommodate them in office space and also economy space. That's our focus. We are not the custodian of all properties of the government of Canada. There are a number of other government of Canada custodians, the largest one being the Florida National. There are 3,400 people working real property. We're a Crown and professional team of architects, engineers, asset managers, property and facility managers, real estate advisors, project managers, and highly specialized technical experts. There's one thing on the slide I think that I've identified in red, and that is technical contract management specialists. This slide is actually a slide that we use frequently to communicate to other organizations, particularly within the Canadian federal jurisdiction with respect to who we are. We've left off traditionally this particular activity, this particular function, when we're describing it. That's the demonstration or an example of the evolution that we continue to go through as we move towards becoming, or I guess finalizing model for a corporate real estate organization. And also to reinforce the fact that this is really paramount. This is one of the key functions that we perform within the property, because as we move forward, more and more of the services that we deliver are delivered through third parties and are not delivered through internal resources. And we're actually assuming responsibilities for performing oversight of those particular third parties that are delivering services and maintaining a technical expertise and a clear understanding of the services that are being delivered so that we can say that knowledgeable quality, that challenge function when we think that maybe the contractors who can be working are not necessarily pursuing things in the most effective and efficient way. One thing I would make note of, and it probably relates very well to the discussions more on funding models. Real property has two principal ways in which it's funded. And the business is actually split into two. We receive appropriated funding for our steward role as the owner of real property, and specifically office facilities. We receive that from the government of Canada through Treasury Board. And we also manage a very large revolving fund, which in essence is a drawdown or it's a means to finance or fund our activities that does not include an association. So we start the fiscal year with about $150 million in our bank accounts, and as we deliver services both to the PWG Incorporated program as well as to other government departments, we draw down on that $150 million to pay the staff for the remaining year and to pay for some of the products that we're delivering as well. We invoice those other government departments to recover our costs for delivering those particular services. So it functions very much like a real property or real estate business in that we have a line of credit. We draw down on that line of credit and we replenish it on an ongoing basis by invoicing those within the business. And it's very specific to the delivery of services like property management, project delivery, real estate advisory services. The services that tend to be more transactional and more related to the actual hands-on delivery. We maintain that as well as we outsource. So some of our outsourced arrangements, we can also leverage the development fund to support that particular approach to delivering service. So our mandate as real property is to manage, we manage one of the largest and most diverse portfolios of real property in the federal government environment, with 7.2 million square, principally office and common space, which is inclusive of crown owners. We are the steward of the office facilities, which means we are the designated owner, and we are the party responsible for leasing office space from the private sector. We provide affordable and flexible work environments. We maintain standards with respect to our accommodations that relate to office specifically, how much space that each and every public servant gets within the office space that we provide. And we also maintain a fit-up standard which dictates the quality of the fit-up for the space that we provide to them, so that there's consistency across all government departments, and both from a space perspective, and our space is provided, and also in the level of fit-up that we provide to those spaces. So that's how we try and manage the cost. And we also ensure that there's consistency across our entire portfolio, which spans the entire country from coast to coast to the upper coast in the north. And we maintain, as I said, we are the designated expert for the delivery of real property services within the government, which are those property management, project delivery, facilities management, and specialized property management and engineering services. So that's what we do. Key functions, I think I've spoken to this fairly extensively in the slides prior to this. I'm not going to echo anything. There's a couple of things that I would identify that are additional to what I've shared with you already. One is payments and those taxes. We are responsible for paying the equivalent of property taxes on behalf of the government of Canada for all of the government of Canada's properties across Canada. We call it payments and lieu of taxes because the federal government is not in a position to pay property taxes at a municipal level because it's up at a higher level. But we make payments in lieu of subjecting the government's property taxes. And then what the payments that we make are based very much on the way in which the various municipalities that are designated in payments. And that's valued at about $535 million a year. We're also the organization responsible for acquisition and disposal of federal rural property within the government of Canada environment. So when either PWGSC, the government custodian, or another government custodian is looking to dispose of buildings or space, they come to PWGSC, and we will work with them on developing a strategy to restore those properties. And in certain cases, Tom, I think, or Richard may mention, actually, Canada Land Company as well, for properties that are listed as strategic. So there is an intrinsic value in that particular property that is marketable, and we negotiate the transfer of that particular property to Canada Land Company for marketing to the private sector. And that's one of the through all of the circulations to make sure that it is truly surplus to the government. Facts and figures, I'm not going to go through any of these, they're there for you to review. I made mention of a significant number of them. The value of our entire program, inclusive of both our appropriated program and our service program, on an annual basis is about $4.6 billion. And there is one measure in there. That's actually one of the ways in which we measure the degree to which we're using or leveraging the private sector in the field services to other government departments or to our own internal organization. The target is relatively high and it's measured on internal resources versus the spend for the private sector. So you see for PWGSC, it's private sector versus $1 spent on internal resources, and when we're delivering to other government departments, it's 14 to 1. So $14 every dollar spent on and that's just the way it's a target that we use to ensure that we're maximizing our leverage of the private sector, and we're actually promoting and stimulating the private sector economy by utilizing private sector firms for the ABS services. So we get to the definition of in-house accounting and outsourcing. And our, I guess our view, certainly, because I know that there are various views ways of delivering services. In-house, I think, is reasonably consistent. An in-house approach is leveraging internal resources of an organization to actually deliver hands-on services in support of that organization or institutions that come to services provided. It is, by its very nature, very rigid, highly transactional, because you're talking about cleaning, someone inspecting equipment within a building, someone who's performing security, and you're paying all of those individuals to deliver services, and there may be some contracts related to that as well. So there are a significant number of invoices that are processed on a regular basis, and our ability actually to internal resources is more limited. We try, and we have created a number of standards that leverage industry approaches to delivery of service, principally in but when you're using public servants to deliver services, there are other things that we consider with respect to supporting our normal citizens. Actually, there's an inability to a certain extent to fully leverage standards from the private sector, and it tends to be very both the direct costs of resources, but you also have legacy costs associated with each and every one of those resources, such as pension, training, and other things. Is when delivering services to internal resources, there is also a requirement to maintain a fairly extensive infrastructure of support within the department, paying invoices, to conduct HR or staffing exercises, to conduct procurement exercises, but also that requirement and cost in that. Then you move to a task, and then the task is hopefully so we went to the private sector. It is also more transactional. There are variations that could reduce the cost for such as the cost of the altogether. So if you were to so there was an internal team that was providing the service, essentially the next private sector. So that was the future of accounting, and because the approach was more transactional, it was a higher cost, and it didn't really position us to reduce peripheral costs that we incur in maintaining our organization. One of the part of which in our case, property management and environment was further real estate third party leasing. So you can imagine that you're going from multiple years to 10 the statement of work that we have is statements of work that we have previously been customized to various buildings. How we put it at this level from the floor, and I wouldn't be doing it justice as far as how they those with so that's kind of consistent with our evolution. So I guess the question is, do you use your internal resources to deliver the services? Do you outpass or show you know you have or is it or do you outsource or do you have a combination? Real companies are very likely to consider that particular model for outsourcing. They're making here the growth objectives and there are drivers. One of our objectives is providing more safe, healthy, and sustainability of governmental property, that's an objective. It's an objective that's been built into our model and it's something that we built to the private sector to support. So that will also around greening of government operations, reducing our carbon footprint, reducing our utilization of energy, etc. So we're very focused on that, and we built that particular requirement into our exercise contracts as well. And there are specific performance measures related to that. We're interested in consistent with federal policy, that is both an objective, and it is a driver related to the use of third parties or the private sector. Leveraging the full value of commercial expertise. Why would we want to leverage commercial expertise? There are a couple of things occurring in the federal property environment at present. One is, as a federal organization, our ability to, if not non-existent, but it's more some of the others have, the private sector is better positioned to innovate, and we incent them to do that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we want to eliminate I guess, there was a perspective at one point in time that we were competing with private sectors on providing services that they could provide as well as we would at a maybe a more cost-effective manner. So we wanted to eliminate that perception. So where it makes sense and where the private sector has the capability to deliver service, we will look at options to engage them in rather than continuing to deliver services. So that is actually one of the drivers for our solution. Enabling control municipal resources on service management and administration. We're living in an environment where there are diminishing resources available to deliver services. So one of the objectives that we have is to take the resources that we have and focus them on the high value, critical things within our particular environment. Take some of the more transactional services and move into so we have flexibility. So that's one of the points. And obviously, one of the drivers in cost saving efficiencies from a perspective of that peripheral costs, the requirement to maintain significant support organization around the people who deliver service, but also cost savings that we are able to achieve and so on the private sector. I'll talk a little bit about what we've been able to achieve across our three dimensions. So this is a graphic of the model that we employ. You see the RPSM model in the center, and you'll see a number of boxes around it. So where we can start at the top, we're looking to provide flexibility to the private sector to innovate. Outcome-based approach to the identification of our requirements to the private sector. Why do we do that? We don't want to be prescriptive in identifying how they have to do all of the work that they perform on our behalf. But we do want to be in a position to, and we also want to be in a position to provide them with the flexibility to embrace changes in the delivery of services, changes in the way in which the private sector is providing these services, and as long as they're able to achieve the outcomes that we have identified and meet our objectives, then there are no restrictions on what they can do. We talk about how we kind of regulate that by using a variety of processes that we have to deliver into the how. But principally, our objective is really not to be more focused on the outcome, but really to deliver in the best way possible, achieve that. We strike a balanced approach. We've gone through 3 generations. We started with too much oversight. We then went to the 2nd generation where we had too little oversight. And we've now arrived at the 3rd generation where we think we have a balanced approach to station and risk. So it's very important to ensure that we're performing the right oversight and focusing on the right things. And that's a consideration in the model. And that's one of the things that we take a look at very seriously when we're looking at how we're going to mobilize our organization to respond to the requirements to perform oversight of contract arrangements on these contracts. Just a couple of additional statements with respect to that. Our contractors are self-monitoring with respect to performance. They capture all of the performance data. They roll all of that information up and they present it back to us. And we employ quality monitoring to determine whether what they're presenting back to us is consistent with the information that we gathered on their service delivery activities. So we don't abdicate absolutely everything to them, and we say we discuss everything that you've identified to us. We ask them to self-measure, to identify where they had difficulty and what they'd like to rectify that. And we employ our quality monitoring where we go in on a selective basis and review what it is that they've done to validate that what they said they're going to do is actually what they have done. The approaches that they said they would employ in their service delivery are consistent with what they're doing in practice. And if they're not, then we raise non-conformities and we resolve that. And it hasn't been happening from that perspective. We also employ standards very heavily in this generation of contracts. Specifically industry standards. So ISO, there are other standards that we employ, ASHRAE, etc. So rather than being prescriptive with respect to how, we obligate the contractors to align with or certify to standards, and we ensure that they do that when monitoring, quality monitoring. But it's still part of the statement of work where there are requirements to align with, certify to, or comply with standards, government policies, legislation, and regulations. And we motivate the contractor. So we spend a significant amount of time and effort trying to determine how to articulate our requirements to ensure that we drive the behavior that we want to drive to achieve the outcome that we've established for that particular mechanism. And really, it's all about how you state your requirements and what you include as far as your contractors, what you ask the contractors to include in their fees versus what they can pass through without a markup. So we spend an awful lot of time and effort trying to strike a balance so that we incent or drive the contractor to behave in a certain way. And that way is the way in which we believe will best position them to meet our objectives and our requirements. That's kind of all of the considerations that go into RPS management. And that's where we focus as we're putting these things together. And they are considerations as we perform the oversight and the activities that the contractor is conducting. So these are the three generations of contracts. We started actually, we've been outsourcing services, specifically property management and project delivery since 1998. So that was our first generation of contract. It was a relatively small contract. There were about 250 PWG in all condos, and it was valued at about $1.7 billion. It included property management and project delivery up to $200,000, and as an option also third-party lease administration and third-party rent. It did not include lease administration, so for this large government office leases. And it did not include any work on projects over $200,000. As part of that particular exercise, we transferred 400 public servants to the private sector through a provision that we call a workforce adjustment alternate delivery initiative. So it's to be able to guarantee continued employment for the public servants that are affected by the initiatives that we move forward with. It was actually a very positive experience. People that we transferred as part of that first generation had very good things to say with respect to the experience. And in some cases, some of those same people that moved out of public works to the private sector in the first generation are now with the contractor in the third generation, so they're seeing really good things. So it is a way to ensure that there is consistency, I suppose, and there's a knowledge base within the contractor with respect to your organization, your priorities, and the way in which you would like to see things done without being disruptive. So that they can transfer that knowledge to the contractor and let them align with the contractor. We moved into the second generation, slightly larger, started at $5.4 billion, including a larger number of buildings, I think it was 319 office buildings. We included provision for projects of $1 million. Sorry, we included provision for projects between $200,000 and $1 million. And we added lease administration as an optional service. We don't mention any installation part of that particular agreement. And at the end of that particular contract in March 31st, 2015, we had increased the footprint of that contract to 1,000 buildings and 300,000. We had increased the value to $5.91 billion, and we had exercised options for moving up to $1 million on all 8 contracts. And we had actually leveraged that particular contract to deliver on our what we call accelerated infrastructure program, which was an initiative that the government of Canada put forward to invest in infrastructure to stimulate the economy. So that's actually a success story with respect to infrastructure in Canada. We were able to very quickly mobilize a contingent workforce to deliver upon that particular program within a very challenging period. It was 2 years, and the project was already in the neighborhood of $5 million. And we get to our third generation, which we call RP1, which is larger still. It is actually 13 years inclusive of all extension options. It includes 3,500 assets, and we changed the way in which we categorize our properties from being a building, which is composed of land, parking, antennas, essentially in the case of dog houses, etc. So each of those, we combine all of that into what we call a building. Now we actually account for each and every asset that is managed by the company. So we account for, and that's kind of in the 3,500, the parking lot, the land, the physical structure of the building, and any other ancillary structure that we need to go through the property. So we think it's more reflective of what's being done by the contractor, and it also ensures that there is complete traceability from the services back to the assets for which we need to provide. We included as a standard the delivery of projects up to $1 million, and as an option, we have to deliver the project above $1 million with no upper level threshold. So what that means is you can potentially have this particular contractor deliver a project valued at $50 million. There are requirements surrounding that. You could have this particular contractor build a building on a particular site. So we wanted to make sure that we maximize our flexibility to leverage the private sector and the contract to meet our program requirements. So RP1, that is, and it's got a total potential value of $23 billion over the 13 years, and all of the options are exercised, and we actually exercise all of the options. So this is the structure of RP1. I mentioned that there are 6 contracts across Canada, 1 for each geographical region that we have within our country. So we have Pacific, there's Colombia, and Yukon. We have Western, which is composed of the Western provinces, the Northwest Territories, and the Territory of Newfoundland. We have Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantic region, so 4 Atlantic provinces composed of make up the Atlantic region. And then we have something called the National Capital Area, which is the seat of government. So we have a significant centralization and concentration of government partnership of the National Capital Area. It actually represents about 50% of our overall large contract. Each contract has a number of portfolios, and the portfolios are structured based on the type of the assets being managed. So we have a portfolio of family home assets that we manage within. We have a portfolio of lease assets, so those that we lease in the private sector. Because the approach to what we're asking the contractors to do different than what we would ask them to do in the case of a government building. And then we have where there are other government departments who move their properties into RP1, so how a contractor manage, there is a portfolio specific to their properties. So that we have the capability to segregate their buildings and their requirements from those that we have for our portfolio, and we actually segregate the leases because they are a slightly different for their management. It's amazing that it's not contract that you're dealing with a number of contractors in that particular case. So that's how it's structured. And then each of those portfolios has a number of assets that are on the portfolio that the contractor is responsible for managing. So what's services we manage through RP1. We manage, there are management services, which include property management services, as well as other general requirements, such as ensuring the health and safety of those occupants. Establishing third-party leases and agreements, which refers to leasing out space in our buildings to third parties. Lease administration services, which covers the management of leased assets or assets that we lease from other third parties, so the private sector, and they perform that service on our behalf. Project delivery services covers construction up to $1 million as a core service. And I made mention of the option that we have. And I would like to say, as far as project delivery services is concerned, it not only applies to delivery of services specific to our buildings, so repairs, recapitalization, fit up, refit. It also applies to tenant services, so the work that the tenants want to have done in the building, if they pay the contractor can actually provide service to the tenants up to $1 million. Now, up to $40,000 they can approach the contractor themselves. And we have some oversight around that. About $40,000 they have to come through CWCC to engage the contractor to deliver the services. But there is a fair amount of flexibility that we provide to the tenants to deliver the services. The optional services that we included in our P1 are asset management, the development of asset management plans and building condition reports, the initiation and delivery of projects above $1 million with no operating units, and space measurement and facilities management services. The important thing with respect to our design is that, we need to consider always is whatever service we get options, or whatever work is done by the contractor has to be related to an asset that's being managed through the contractor. We cannot use the contractor to provide project delivery services in an asset that doesn't form part of their management responsibility. So it's limited to the assets that are in the contract. We call it an asset-based mechanism, versus a service-based mechanism that we're looking at in the future, which it would not be restricted by assets managed through other contractors. So, I'll just go through a few of the innovations that we've included in our Q1. I talked about the consideration of unique assets, OGD, lease, and crown owned. We make provision in the contract to ensure that we have the capability to manage those particular assets in the way in which they should be managed. We've introduced an acceptance review process, which provides us with visibility into the way in which the contractor is going to deliver on our statement of work. We've enhanced our information management performance, the way in which the contractor manages our information, and submits it to us. We have an explicit definition of deliverables that the contractors provide, and also when we're to provide them. We focus, as I said before, on the application of industry standards and legislative and regulatory requirements that the contractor is obligated to conform. And there's an increased emphasis on authority surrounding the demonstration of that. So always when the contractors proposing to do other services, they're enforceable to have to go through to demonstrate that they're proposing to deliver in a way which in the best way possible, that will deliver the best value to them. I'm going to focus on this slide. We talked a little bit about performance standards. We had a two-tiered approach to performance management for the contract. We withhold fees, a percentage on each and every fee that we pay to the contractor. So when they invoice us on a monthly basis, we withhold 25%. We withhold 25% of the fees that they claim on their invoice. That is designated as a fee at risk. And that fee is released based upon the successful performance of the contractor. There are ranges of performance they have to fall within. And if they meet our targets, or meet those objectives, then we will release a portion of the fee. If they meet it at the portfolio level, we talked about the portfolio fee before, then we will release 15% of the fee of risk for these so 15 and 25. To be eligible for the 10% at the contract level, they have to meet all of the objectives and requirements at the individual portfolio level across all of the portfolios. If they have moved, they're not eligible for the 10% fee of risk. That is part of that 25% of the report. And the other thing I would also introduce is we have a contractor incentive program in addition to this. So above and beyond the fees that they charge on the services delivered, they can earn additional fees up to 10% of the value of the fees for the vehicle. If they achieve something that goes beyond the contract, so if they help us achieve the objective or the CIP is made of everything after it's negotiated on an annual basis. If they fail to meet any of the performance targets at any of the levels within the particular structure, they're not eligible for the contract. So, we consulted that on this. They were not happy with this particular approach, which actually means wrong behaviors and things like that. So, where are we going actually? Such points where we going? We're exploring opportunities to expand what we call the urban different. These are the people that are living in this position, and we're determining whether or not we should explore building those services that are for private sector, based upon an assessment of the private sector's feasibility. We're conducting analysis of likely voting after that is scope, structures, and composition of potential future contracts. Where we have and continue to engage other corporate real estate organizations to learn from what they've done in this area and to apply some of their lessons learned throughout years. And also to share some of the lessons we've learned for those that are contemplating and pursuing I've done in Canada, the United States, and hopefully beyond that. And I'll link it back into the working group. So where do we go from here with respect to the working group? What do we want to achieve? We want to establish a means for which our digital PWA members and actually leverage the combined knowledge and experience of the network with respect to contracting. We want to capture and share lessons learned and communicate opportunities for innovation and enhancement in our sourcing models. We're looking for your feedback by responding to the questionnaire that we sent out. We were engagement in the working group to talk about your experiences, to talk about the achievement of the services, and to really create that repository of information that I think would be a benefit to all members. And because we should have been moving in this direction, there's value in having as many people as possible participate in this exercise. So if you're interested, please feel free to talk to me during the conference. If you have any questions, I apologize, I put together those slides. But if you have any questions with respect to mechanism, performance measurement, performance management, how we perform quality monitoring on IT, please feel free to talk to me. I'm very happy to share. Yes.
Thank you very much, Bill. Sadly, we are behind our schedule. I suggest if you have any questions, now we are going to perhaps that's what I just here, indeed. And while you're having your lunch, we are going to
divide you in 3 groups, with each group with a defined color. So we can, in that way, we can go visit the Frida Kahlo Museum, the Blue House, in 3 groups sequentially. Please don't forget your umbrellas. You never know the afternoon, these days. And have a nice day. Thank you.